So I have to start off by saying that enhancing classroom practice with research behind principles to action is one of the most untextbookiest textbooks I've ever read. Yes, I know that doesn't make like a whole bunch of sense, and that's not even a real word, but it describes the book perfectly. And if that doesn't make you want to read it, then I don't know what else will. But let me clarify. Even though the book is set up like a textbook, it doesn't read like one. It was written to inform teacher practice, but in class we use it as a guide of practices to implement within the classroom. So the chapter headings serve as a checklist. Together the chapters work to create a picture of a near perfect math class through the eyes of a teacher and what we can be doing to make the classroom run better. Almost all the checklists support their point, or I'm sorry, almost all the chapters support their points by including several vignettes that only strengthen the suggested practices. This book is more important. It's important because it covers all aspects of an effectively ran mathematics class. Nothing in this book is grade or level specific. Rather, it allows the reader to interpret what good practices look like, and it's up to the reader to take the knowledge and apply it in a way that fits their classroom. The best part about it is that all the information in the book is known to be effective because it's backed by evidence and research. Okay, so for my big ideas, I decided to focus on the takeaways for chapters 1, 3, 7, and 2, which were the goals, representations, supporting struggling learners, and using tasks within the mathematics classrooms. So to start off, I'm talking about goals. Goal writing is something that shouldn't be taken lightly. They describe goal writing in detail in this book. The author is really stressed how the goal or objective should be in the guiding force of the lesson. It should be written with the end in mind and be explicit, specific, and learner driven. I never really thought of the impact on creating a goal could make. Students need to know that they are doing what they are doing to what degree. The quote that they used that I thought was really good, and really made me think about goals differently is clear learning goals can help teachers do this by helping them to consider A, the alignment between their instructional task and their goal for student learning, B, the solution strategies to the mathematical tasks that would have most potential to uncover ideas underlying the learning goal, and C, what questions could be asked during a class discussion that would support students thinking about the key ideas and underlying goal. So in our school, we have these charts that we have to write goals on, um, and keep up with them and change them regularly through the activities in the days in which we're changing what the students are learning. And I kind of just thought, we do it because we're supposed to do it, but I never really thought about the impact it made. And so the book just made me think about the real power of them. The second big idea I want to focus on is representations. Representations are so important to learning contextually. Excuse me. And the book also talks a lot about how we need to we need to teach things so that they understand the concept behind it, but this specific big idea was on the representation. So I love how they talk about using representations. Some teachers don't use them because they would rather students to be able to solve problems quickly, and that's what they think of like rote memorization and recalling those basic formulas and stuff to solve problems. But when we don't expose them to the representations, we're losing the meaning behind the math. So I like how they talk about how models help teachers not only see what students know, but um, if you allow them to describe what's going on in their representations, you can see how they're thinking and where they went wrong. And I chose a quote from the book that said, furthermore, students must interpret the underlying mathematical structures and relationships highlighted through the representation, and then identify other mathematical situations that maintain the corresponding structure. That is basically saying they need to be able to see how the problem was solved, or which what type of skill that problem is asking them to apply, and apply it in another situation. So being able to do it over and over when those numbers are not just when the I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm kind of just saying that they need to be able to solve that problem in more than just that context. They need to be able to transform their learning and use the correct representation to help them solve that problem. Um, so this made me think of how representations are also very useful when trying to understand the student's way of thinking when they solved it a different way than that was taught. Student invented solutions. You can use the representations to share their grasp of the concept and possibly help other students. The only problem is with student invented learning, you always have to make sure that it works, and not just for that particular problem. So the next big idea I thought of was supporting struggling learners um, and struggle. What do they call it? I remember what it's called. It's oh, I forgot it again. Productive struggle. Yeah. So supporting struggling learners in their productive struggle allows them to draw conclusions and come up with a solution. Um, and that's difficult. The book states that teachers often step in to help because they think frustration and lack of immediate success are indicators that they have failed their students. We feel strongly enough that all of us as mathematics teachers need to step in. Need to stop doing what is easy and doing what is right. And they talk of being easy as stepping into the rescue and doing what's right as giving students time or space to become independent, self-reliant problem thinkers. That quote really makes me think that word struggle is not so bad. Teachers are kind of doing a disservice if they step in and save the day all the time. It kind of makes the students feel like as if they are not capable of figuring it out on their own, saying that their best effort is not good enough, and that's not the attitude that we want to display to them. So the last big idea of the practice that resonated with me is using tasks in mathematical classrooms. Tasks are meant to be challenging but solvable because they have some sort of understanding as to how the parts of the puzzle work. The problem that most teachers don't want to take the time to expose their student to tasks for the fear of wasting time or having to teach them how to do it. Even though the book talked about even the book talked about a study showing that students' learning is greatest in classrooms where tasks consistently encourage high level student thinking and reasoning, and least where tasks are routinely procedural in nature. Ugh, that was from the NCTM 2014. But what I got from that quote was really that um, if you're going to do tasks, which is suggested, you need to make them worth doing. Don't give them something that they're going to get every day, a problem situated in the same um, like structure, and they're going to get that every day. Don't give them all addition problems where they automatically know how to solve it. They need to have some sort of challenge to them, not too much, but like I was talking about earlier, that productive struggle. Um, as far as recommendations, I think this book was spot on for the audience. Being a classroom teacher, we're supposed to be considering so many of these practices in our classroom on a daily basis. They are best practices for a reason. So if reading this book does not make the teacher want to implement some of these suggestions and improve their practice, then that's a shame because it's so helpful. If I had to change anything about this book, I would suggest that some of the chapters be combined. There were several chapters that worked together, and therefore it would be beneficial to talk about them as a unit instead of individual pieces or individual practices. All in all, I would recommend this book to other educators. It's very useful and practical book. I am not the biggest fan of academic reading, so the fact that this was reader friendly really made me enjoy it. I feel more confident reading it, even though I was already considering these things in my classroom. Having examples of everything is really helpful as a new teacher. I have a couple other teacher friends that I know would really enjoy it too. So this is something I back completely.